Welcome to World O'Clock with me, Dr. Clement Asemnyra. I present part 2 of our Elizabethan era corset, the funnel corset. We are proudly sponsored by Dreams College of Creative Arts, SEWGASM, and Fashion Masterclass Africa. If you haven't subscribed yet, please, what are you waiting for? This is super not fair. You are watching me. Please leave me some comments, subscribe. I want to read your comments. Like, share this link with your friends and families. Let's build this community, okay? So let's go for a quick GASM break. When we come back, we will start learning.
Aquaba to the award-winning Design College, British Council and Singapore Fashion Council endorse. Embark on a journey of creativity, craftsmanship, and business of fashion with us at Dreams College of Creative Arts. Allow your passion to become your purpose and it will one day become your profession. Join our community of ambitious individuals by enrolling today. We have courses for all levels, beginners, intermediate, and advanced. Our industry-prepared courses include Fashion Design Technology, Victoria Sewing School, Haute Couture École, Affaires de Couture, which has both English and French class, Apte Karim, manual and digital fashion illustration. Explore our courses offering on our website. Visit at www.thecca.edu.gh, WhatsApp or call us. Email info@thecca.edu.gh. Locate us at Hansonic Junction, Dansuman, Accra, Ghana.
Welcome back from that quick GASM break. This video is a continuity of our pattern making video. That is the part 1 of the Elizabethan era corset, funnel corset. In this class, we are going to explore, we're going to look at how the corset is being made, the construction techniques, all you have to know. But we had a challenge with video 1 and I want to clear certain things to you. So in the video, if you had watched part 1, that's the pattern making video, during the end, I was explaining that for my drape patterns, I didn't take out of the pattern because the dress form was big. There was a little challenge. You know, usually when we are having production, there is so much happening. So if you watch the video clearly, you realize during the draping scene, before I plotted the measuring, the drape tape, I stated I was taking out and I mentioned 2 inches, 1 inch, and I plotted the drape tape. So the drape tape, I had one at the center back before I had another one here. Yes. So it means when I was preparing my drape pattern, I took out from the bust. I don't want you to get confused. I took out from the pattern. So the ending statement was wrong. So just to make you clear, because I know some of you be a bit confused, but some of you too, I'm sure you understood that I took out. Yes. And I also had some questions on the front bust and the back bust. Reason I have recorded another video which will take you through the custom bust measurement and even the hip, how to measure the hip and the bust in a custom way so you have your fits coming out perfectly. But with what I explained in the pattern making video, there's the chest. My chest measurement is the high bust from here, because when you have the corset and you want it to siphon up, you don't want this part to come here, so you need the measurement here. And when you're making the pattern, you can even choose, if my measurement from here to here is giving me 15 inches, I can choose to use 14 inches or 13.5 so that the end of the corset doesn't really come close to the armpit area, right? So you measure your chest or your front chest here. And also the front bust is from here to here. My next video will address that in details. And like I said, the waist area for funnel corset is not meant to really push in. However, you can choose to make it, cinch or snatch the person if you require to do that. It means you have to take more out of it, right? And also, you may want to contour the under bust area. If let's say you want to have the funnel corset on another garment, we have some designs that the inside goes deeper into the gown and you can have the funnel corset on it. Yes, you can contour the under bust just to have it shape out a bit. But with what we are doing, we are working with the flat idea. We are working with the flat idea. If you look at this picture, there's a piece that was designed during the production for Fashion Masterclass Africa online class on funnel corset. If you look at it as well, you realize the front is very flat and it has a way it smashes the bust out, and it has the quilting technique as well. So that's basically it. Let's get into the construction process of our funnel corset. For our Elizabethan corset, the funnel corset, I'm going to work with the Indian bobinette, 0.3 texture from SEWGASM. The idea is I want to double this texture. I want it really structured and textured up. So I'm going to use this. As you can see, I have doubled it. It's on fold. I'm going to put my ruler through and make sure I get it even. So I'm going to place my patterns. This is a center front pattern. I'm going to have this placed on fold. So I'm bringing my front side. There's my front side pattern as well. So I could place it here, but for fabric economy, I want to have space that I could place this back pattern. So I will shift this a bit like this so that the back pattern could also take here. Pinning with my fox pins, also from SEWGASM. I mean, SEWGASM is the place for quality haberdashery, pressing aids, studio aids, what have you. Your couture fabrics and everything, look no further. SEWGASM. So I have my patterns fully pinned. I'm going to cut out every bit. So I have my patterns fully cut out. I will be tracing out the boning lines onto the patterns. So next I am going to trace my bone case line onto the mesh, and trust me, I'm going to use this special sewing tracing paper from SEWGASM. I mean, it comes in 5 colors. I'm going to use the red one. We have the blue, red, white, green, and yellow. This gives you precision in your sewing. If you want accuracy, right sewing finishings and all that, this is the paper for you. So I'm going to use this, dividing this into 2 equal parts. I'm going to just use 1. I'll further divide this into 2. If you buy a full pack, you're going to use it like forever, because this piece I am holding, I will trace a lot of things with it. So when you pick it, one side happens to be very matty and one side has the grease. It's like a crayon fill on the paper. There's a tracing element. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to start with this. Usually when you are tracing, you don't take the patterns off entirely. So I'm going to remove the pins and free it a bit. So if you have this on fold, you're going to take this. This is the part with the grease. So I'm going to put this down, and I'm going to pick this other part also with the grease, and then just let it face each other. And what I'm going to do is to take my tracing wheel and I'm going to trace the line. So this is my boning line. I'll trace it out. I come to the next as well. I'm going to trace it out. And once I open up, just look at it. You realize the tracing is done, right? So I'm going to trace all the lines. So once I'm done, I'll just tack on it as a guide. So the more you use it, you can use, these are all elements. You're going to trace and trace and trace. When you're tracing and the paper gets torn, all you do is to use a sellotape to tape the wrong side, and you can still continue to use it. So imagine having a full pack. You're going to use it like forever. SEWGASM. So during my cutout, you remember I laid the patterns to have double of each of the patterns, but during the tracing, I removed each of the patterns out because I wanted to just trace on one. So there's a center front. I trace just on one. This doesn't have the tracing. So what I'm going to do is to just position this on this, and I'm going to pin. So at this stage, I'm going to tack. Ideally, there's a guideline. Uh, you may want to tack on it, but the tacking I'm going to do a diagonal basting or herringbone basting just to hold the entire pattern. That will enable me take off the pins and then join the pieces quickly. So I'm going to fix in my needle. So you have your threaded needle. Be sure to apply your beeswax. Sometimes you know how this thread behave. And also, if the fabric is quite firmer, be sure to wear a thimble. I have my ring thimble from SEWGASM. Making my sewing so easy. So I'm going to create my herringbone stitching just to hold up everything to make my sewing very easy. So that is my temporal stitches going on, the herringbone basting. Oh yes, Fashion Masterclass Africa. We finally mount some new classes on our website, www.fashionmasterclassafricaonline.com. So yes, no matter where you are watching me from, please reach out to us and sign up and learn online. We have classes on Japanese flower art. If you want to learn how to make beautiful flowers to enrich or elevate your couture sewing, sign up for this online class. It's incredible. Also, we have the ready to wear line. If you're into ready to wear and you really want to understand how this ready to wear business is run, your garment production skill, designing, marketing, and all that, please sign up for this online class on ready to wear. We also have surface ornamentation on bead embroidery presently on our website. Link is in my bio. Chat our rep and sign up today. Fashion Masterclass Africa. So tacking fully done. Look at it. Fully done. We are ready to do some sewing. Let's get sewing. So we are going to stitch with sewing allowance 1/2 inch throughout. So it means we are going to double sew for all our seams. So our sewing is fully done. The next is we are going to press this so that we can trim off the allowances and now place our bones. I am using a mesh bobinette for this work, and since this fabric is quite delicate, it's very essential to cover it with a pressing cloth or mint to prevent the heat from coming directly or contacting the fabric directly. And you need a clapper as well to set the entire seam as you press to flatten the seams up for you. So we're going to cut everything off. We are going to cut all the seams off and start placing our bone. Since I did a double stitch here, I'm going to trim the allowances off. The sewings were done to the right side. So you make sure you cut not entirely close. At least you should leave 2 to 3 mm sewing allowance from the sewing area. So we're going to cut off like this, quite close. So we have it looking like this. So I'm going to cut everything off. Then we start placing our bone. Bone case preparation. In relation to what we are doing, we'll be working with the wriggling or wriggling bone, I will be using the 10 mm or 10 millimeters width of wriggling bone. And we are going to prepare a casing like this through which we are going to insert the wriggling or wriggling bone. And I'm using my satin, and I have it fused as well. So we have the interfacing and we have the fashion fabric fused. Be sure to fuse on the same grain direction. So this is the wapians. The interfacing also have its place on the wapian. So you have to fuse first before you mark out. And in preparing of the bone case, this is the trick. So the measurement for the bone case is going to be the width of your bone times 2 plus 10 mm or 1 cm. So if your width is 5 mm, it means you need 10 mm plus another 10 mm or 1 centimeters. 1 centimeter is equivalent to 10 mm. So I am using a 1 cm bone or a 10 mm what bone width. So I'm going to measure 10 mm times 2 plus 10 mm. So I'll need, that is 30 millimeters or 3 cm. I'm going to use that to create my bone case and cut out. So I'm going to cut out. I'm going to cut out my bias strips. So we have our bias entirely cut out. In order to make your sewing easier and faster, I advise you have an idea of the length required. So these are my working patterns, and I'm going to measure. So the longest I have here is 10.5. So ideally, I'm looking at having finished works of 11 inches. So I'm going to cut the strips 11, 11, 11. For sewing ease, I'll do a 12. So I'm going to cut 12, 12 so that it's easy to sew and turn out as well. Also, before you start sewing, I advise you press the bias, press it to have equal path so that it becomes very easy. So in sewing, we are going to sew 5 mm, and then the rest we could just trim, turn, and insert our bones. So we have our bone fixed in the bone case, like I said, and be sure to have the bone fitted rightfully like this. And you can achieve this if you use the right measurement. Remember the width of the bone times 2 plus 10 mm or 1 cm. That is what we use. That you're going to stitch 5 mm, you turn and you fix in the bone. Be sure to also use a low medium heat to press the wriggling or wriggling bone to flatten it a bit. So this was pressed and we have our bones all ready for sewing. So I'm going to start plotting them. So I'm going to start sewing from this very first line with my bone. I'll make sure where we have the seam is placed like this. Then the smooth side becomes the right side. So I'm going to put it right on the trace line and I'll start sewing. So be sure to stitch very close to the tip, just like what you're seeing, very close to the tip of the bone. And once the bone is well fitted in, you realize it's holes on the fabric and it stitches on the bone as well. So there's a side, I'm presently at the side, and we know I did a double sewing because I commented earlier the seam or the fabric is quite solid. Yes, after trimming, you can equally stitch it down. That is the flip stitch. So I have this down. I will still do a flip stitch. I just want the seam to look or feel stronger. So I'll stitch on it just to let it lie. Good. Then I can now place my bone. Once you do this, it also makes it easy for the bone to relax. Yeah, so I'm going to put the bone on the seam to cover it up. I'm going to stitch. So presently done. So in my bone case, I actually omitted some few. And now I'm going to work at the closure, that is the back. I'm going to prepare eyelets that we're going to employ a technique here. You're going to see, I'm going to use my wriggling or wriggling bone, clear, you can see it. What I did was I pressed it a bit just to flatten it up. So we are going to fix it here to create our closure area. So let's get started. So I'm going to place it. I'll leave the sewing allowance and place it on the trace line. I leave a little allowance at the hem and then the top as well. And I'm going to sew close to the edge. I'll stitch close to the edge. And I'm going to stitch the side as well. I reinforce. And I'm going to lay the next one next to it. So I'm going to pick another bone and I'm going to place it very close to it like this, and I'm going to sew. We're going to sew the edge as well. So let me just end. I'm going to do this part as well. I reinforce and I just go, stitch the edge to the hem, reinforce. So I have my 3 wriggling bones here. I'm going to do the same for the other side. So after stitching the wriggling bone, the 3 wriggling bone, I'm going to take off the sewing allowance at the side. Very close to the bone. And we're going to prepare a facing. So look at this. This is a grow on or extended facing. So we're going to use a measurement here. I used 1 cm width bone, that is 10 mm. So this is 30 mm, equivalent to 3 cm. So the finished width of the facing should give you 3 cm plus 5 mm, a little bit of tolerance. It shouldn't be the exact measurement. You need to add a bit of tolerance in. Then we fold the sides into it like this. This is the WAP yarns, straight grain, right? So I'm going to fix this into this. And this have been interfaced as well. So I'm going to have this fixed in. I'll make sure this part falls on the crease line, right? Make sure it's on the crease line. We are going to stitch the edge again onto the facing. Then you reinforce it. stitched. You can see at the wrong side, you can see the stitch. At this side, I'm going to now envelope this. I'll bring the fold and also make sure the base has its fold and make sure it meets. And I'm going to pin along entirely. After fixing it, you have to tack it and make sure the front fold matches with the back fold. So tacking will help you do this. I'm going to stitch. After sewing, you realize you have a feel of the three bones, the three ridgeline bone. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch 10 mm from the left, 10 mm throughout, from this side to 10 mm. So you're going to stitch from both sides, and the middle is going to be where we're going to create our eyelets. So the eyelets will be created on the middle ridgeline bone, and the ridgeline bone is going to help make it more stronger. And also, once we are done sewing, we are going to insert plastic bone beneath the ridgeline bones at the sides to firm up the sides of the closure. I'm going to do the same thing for the other side as well. We have our plastic bone. Many a time when you get this plastic bone in a row, it has this curl effect. Since it's plastic, you can cover it with a pressing mitt or a fabric. You press, and with the help of your clapper, flatten it up just to take that waviness away. So we're going to insert the plastic bone, and also know the entire width here is influenced by you. If you feel you don't want it too big, it means the width of plastic bone, the ridgeline bone to be used here has to be reduced. I use 10 mm, so you can equally use 5 mm, 5 mm, 5 mm, 5 mm, right? Which is going to give you a total of 20 millimeters, which is equivalent to 2 cm. And you can stitch for the bone case 5, 5, and leave the 10 for your closure. So you actually determine how you want it to be. And with the help of this plastic bone, I'm going to fix this behind. Yes, so it goes to the wrong side of the piece. You're going to push it through. And it means the plastic bone you are equally going to use will be influenced by the width you have here. It should be a little bit lesser than the width, so I can easily push it through. You can see it. I'm going to fix this part as well. And if you've watched my video on boning, if you haven't watched, I advise you also watch the video on boning. It teaches you how to treat the edges of your bone when you are sewing with them as well. So we have it like this. Look at it. So I'll fix the other side, and we'll have our closures made in the middle. Yeah, so we are set to bind the neckline, and you just have to prepare your bias. I'm doing the balance method, meaning having the fabric folded into 2 equal parts. Once you start, or before you start, you have to make sure you start with the fold before we go from the wrong side and we move to the right side. Also, we have to push our bone, especially the plastic bone. We have to push it down a bit so that it doesn't get into the sewing area. So you push it down. You do the same for the other side as well. We're going to, so I fold this into it, then back like this. At this part, when we're about ending, I'll equally have to leave a little more than the length required, and at this point I'm going to flip this fold to the right side and stitch the edge entirely. The width is actually influenced by you, how you want it to be, influences how to cut it. So let's go. It's time for us to stitch our bustier bra felt inner. So I have my sewing allowances traced and tacked here. This is the main of the fashion fabric. I used Shiflex interfacing for more firmness, and this is actually in hard texture. And this is going to be the lining. I also use Shiflex, but in soft texture. With my tracing as well, since I'm introducing most of you to the tracing art, reason why I use the red color on the off-white. However, the pack comes with a white color as well, so you may want to use the white to trace, which is equally visible. Due to the filming, I didn't want to use the white because it won't be so clear for you to see. Reason why I decided to use the red. It's erasable, but obviously using colored on off-white or white will make it feel a bit stained, but once we clean it off, it will go. So let's start sewing. So we are going to press our seams open and create our bust cage fill on the lining. So let's get pressing. So it's time to press. And as we know, in sewing, pressing plays a significant role. You don't iron, you press. So you hold the iron, jack, 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 you see, and you need pressing aids. I'm working with this set, Atelier pressing set from SEWGASM. It has the jumbo understand, the breast contour, the bigger, and then the smaller, and my clapper board. So as I'm pressing, I use the clapper to set it. And there is this stability in my pressing, you know. You can see. Come to this part as well. I'm going to press everything out. Moving it out. Look at the way it's contoured out beautifully. It's our pressing aid. And I'm doing something special for our subscribers. I mean, if you have subscribed to my channel, claim a discount offer from SEWGASM when you are purchasing this 4 sets. All you have to do is to show them a proof of your subscription to this channel. Yes, and you will be attended to. It's time to add some professionalism to your sewing. Yes, so we have our bustier bra fill ready. This happens to be the lining, right? So the right side of the lining is facing the body and the wrong side is facing out. We are going to create our bust caging idea on the lining. And when you're creating the bust cage, I always recommend per the size, you would have to go in for the bone. Don't try to use the bigger sizes like the 10 mm, 12 mm. Once the width is bigger, it kind of frames it too thicker. However, if the person is very busty, you may want to use like 10 mm, but you have to make sure you are coiling or creating curves or making sure you are waving it so that it can conform with the bust. So this is it. For our idea, we are looking at placing a bone at the center front, placing another in the seam. We are going to have one at the outline or the neckline and one beneath. And I'll have another one crossing this way. So for example, this is 6 mm bone. I want to apply this bone like this. You may think it looks curvy enough. Many a times people apply bones and you realize it has certain tension when the garment is placed down. So if I want to do this, I'll make sure the measurement from here to here, I add about 3 inches to it, like what I'm having. We are going to create a bend or a curve fill in it. All I'm going to do is to make sure I break the tip a bit. So you're going to cut through the bone just to free the monofilament. It's made of very solidified monofilament, you can see. So once you do that, you're going to apply that. You do the same thing for the other side as well. Once you do this, you're going to pick a plier and you're going to aim at getting the one at the end, either the left or the right. Just pick one. You're going to hold it a bit firm and then just rub as if you are pulling. You're trying to pull. You're trying to pull. You realize it's creating some wavy. You see the curve? It's creating some wavy feel. This enables the bone to bend. You get it? So you pull a little bit. This is fine. I'm going to pull this spatula a little bit so that it can round or curve well around this place. All I'm going to do is to just iron it. I'll iron to maintain the curve. So let me do the part and place the bone in. So apart from the pulling method I just showed you, another way of also curving the bone is by applying heat. So with heat and your clapper board, I want to curve both sides. So I'm just going to try and bend it and stay the heat on it, right? So as you're doing this, you have to make sure you have your clapper board at the side. Then you see, so we have a curve. You can see the curve in it. You do the same. You do the same to this side as well. Then you have the curve in it for your wax. So you can equally use heat to curve it. So I'm going to start applying my bone around and we up to what? Finish the edge. I have a special video on how to treat the bone end. I'm using the bending method to finish the edge. So you do that and I'm going to check and see where this is going to end as well. Good. So I'm going to finish this part as well with my okay, so let's start sewing. I'm just leaving space because we're going to use the fashion fabric to turn the work, so I can stitch directly from the edge. So reinforce. I'm going to stitch. So usually when we are framing up, I stitch the top and I left this part. The base as well, I'll stitch this part and leave this part. So we could put in all your vertical or horizontal placement is going to be beneath it before we close the edge. And for this part, I'm going to apply the stitch in a ditch method. So I'm going to stitch in between the seam to insert this. So you have to make sure you have the bone placed just beneath the seam in between. There's a stitch in a ditch. I'm going to stitch in between the seam, so you have to press the seam apart Then you can stitch just in between, having the bone. So you press, then you stitch. Press the seam apart, then you stitch. Now we have all our horizontal and the vertical boning inserted. So we make sure the edges are all beneath this. So I'm going to stitch to enclose the entire area. So this part goes beneath it, and this stitch to enclose everything. So our base is ready with the boning. However, before we apply the actual fashion fabric, you can intend to put a shell cap in, but we don't put in a shell cap, so we have to create something that could serve as volume to prevent the boning from printing on the fashion fabric. So it's ready here, and we are going to apply the fashion fabric. So for our fashion fabric, usually when you create this basting, I advise you pad the piece a bit. Either you put in a shell cap just to create volume to prevent the boning from printing on the fashion fabric. I decided to use a laminated foam. Ideally, it should be white. Just ran out of white, but due to the interfacing here, also sticker, it kind of blends out the color. So you have to make sure you're using a color that is actually matching. I cut out from the fashion fabric the net pattern. So you have to make sure you exempt the sewing allowance. You're not supposed to sew on it. I'm going to stitch in a ditch to hold it in, or you could just tack it to hold it in. You could also apply hot melt through here and then fuse it up to have it stabilized, right? Then we are going to stitch. We'll apply this stitch and then leave just this place and turn, and we'll hem it up here. So we know surface ornamentation elevates any garment. Surface ornamentation elevates the beauty of every garment. And I want to apply some Japanese flowers, just a little bit on the corset to elevate it. So I'm working with the floral tool. I have a full class on how to make flowers on fashionmasterclassafrica.com. You will learn so much, how to even use the tools, the different types of flowers. So I have the flower tool here. These are the heads available at SEWGASM. And when you buy the whole set, you have 17 heads for your flower work. Where would you want to other thing? Get your tools now at SEWGASM. Details in the description box below, and create very stunning flowers for your couture design. Yes, 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 yes. Yes, yes, yes. Our final corset is fully ready. You can see our Elizabethan corset. So the bust area, you see how it flats out, and we have this gorge behind just to help the bust fit in well. I also have my Japanese flower arts. Just cute as a signature, and I have my drape fill at the side and the column skirt. So the final corset was just merged with this piece. This was fully draped because I didn't want to just mount the corset just like that. So I needed to just add something. But this is what we can do. We can transform this into, incredible pieces. There's and many other tricks available in both my physical classes and my online classes. If you haven't attended any of my class, please make sure you sign up. Things are new now. I'm giving value, more value than even before. It can only get better. New techniques, new ideas, pushing people beyond their creative zones. That is what I do at Fashion Masterclass Africa and Dreams College of Creative Arts.